Hey guys, welcome back to the tennis vlog. Stay tuned for a Q&A. Hello guys, welcome back. Some of you will remember that a while back I said I was going to do a Q&A and I got you to send me some questions, which you did, thank you very much. So now it's the off season, so we have time, and conveniently it ties in with us hitting 500 subscribers, which is great. So I have your questions here in this hat. This hasn't been scripted, I don't have anything prepared. I'm literally going to draw out a question and give my answer as concisely as possible, which is difficult for me. Try my best, no? Okay, so the first question is, what's your opinion on best of 5-set matches? Should they be introduced from a certain point in slams or taken away from Davis Cup? Okay, so I am a very strong believer in best of 5 sets. I could literally talk about the subject for ages. Obviously, it's a massive talking point at the moment, especially with the ATP season that has just gone, so many injuries. People are saying long season, 5-set matches taking their toll. But I think a big reason for thinking of changing it is also to try and get more people watching. They think people will get bored more easily. To be honest, there is always going to be people who fall in love with tennis for what it is and for what it offers. Best of 5-set matches at Grand Slams are the most dramatic, the most memorable. In fact, there is criticism when matches don't go the distance, when there's not enough competition. Best of 5 distinguish the greatest from the best. It's about endurance, it's about being able to sustain your level, it's about being able to come back from 2 sets down sometimes. It really shows mentally who the better players are, physically who the better players are, and at the end of the day, it's 4 tournaments a year plus Davis Cup. You used to have 5-set Masters 1000 finals, that doesn't happen anymore. So even if you make the second week at every Grand Slam, it's only 8 weeks of a 52-week year. The most memorable moments, the most dramatic moments, the most agonizing moments, and the most brilliant moments often happen in best of 5-set matches. We would lose historic events like the Federer-Nadal 2008 Wimbledon final, Tsonga coming back from 2 sets to love down to beat Federer at Wimbledon on centre court, so I'm definitely in favour of 5 sets. Okay, second question. Why did you choose to write about tennis? When I was about 16, 17, I didn't really know what I wanted to do as a career, and academically I was best at writing and English and that side of thing, and I was utterly and completely obsessed with tennis, so my thought process when I was about 17 was, why don't I try and combine the two things, writing and tennis? Do you think Victoria Azarenka will return to the top of the game? Interesting question. During 2015, she had some very difficult draws, but I could see Azarenka getting back to the slam winning standard of 2012 when she was challenging Serena, when she was at the top of the game. At the beginning of 2016, she was playing impeccable tennis, looking ready to challenge for slams again, won obviously the Indian Wells and Miami double, and then got pregnant, so she had to step away from the sport. Obviously, it's quite a sensitive subject now. There's a lot of private issues that she's dealing with, meaning that the comeback, which began earlier this season, has been stalled for Azarenka, which is a massive shame for her because the field was so open this year that without a doubt in my mind, she could have won a Grand Slam. If she can get things sorted out to come back on court, then I definitely think that Azarenka can get back to the top of the game. She has the mentality, she has the game to win the best titles, and it's all about whether she has the hunger, which is something that I think that she does have. Next question. Oh, upside down. What makes you such a bold, honest writer? Ever since I started writing about tennis, my favourite thing to write has been feature articles, picking my own subject, writing a good length on those topics. And ever since I began writing, I always feel like I've not been afraid to shy back from sharing my opinion. But there was one point, probably a couple of years ago maybe, where I just kind of sat down and I was like, thinking through why I write the way I do. The sentence that came to my mind was, I want to be fearless, which might sound a bit weird, but it is always my aim to say things how I see it, no matter how I think people will react, no matter what opinions other people hold. I want to be very honest with what I think, and if I have a strong opinion with facts to back that opinion up, then I'm not going to hold back from writing about it. Obviously, you have to be very careful. I think I have made certain errors during my career, and I think everyone does that, everyone's human, and it's something that you learn from, it's a learning process. There is a danger in just kind of going along with the crowd, writing what you think is what people want to read or what people want to hear rather than your actual opinion. I don't really believe that you can write about something like tennis, like another sport, and not actually have an opinion on what you're writing about because you're viewing it. It's kind of hard to explain when I'm just kind of doing it off the cuff here, but yeah, basically I just want to be fearless in my writing. I want to be able to give my true opinion of things where it's relevant, obviously, and just be as fair as possible. Let's see. Oh my word. Which one player born in 2000 or later will be the first to win a slam? It's so weird to think that there are players who were born in the year 2000 or later actually competing at a high level. That is really difficult. But there is a Spanish guy called Nicola Kuhn, who I've been following for a couple of years, who has gone deep at some junior Grand Slams and won his first Challenger Tour title 4 months ago. So that's just the step below the ATP Tour. And he's only 17. Yeah, I do think he could win a slam in the future, but it is so hard to say when players are this young. Sometimes juniors don't even play on the senior tour, so there you go. That's my answer for that one. Long one here. What do you think of the GOAT debate? Is this a valid argument, or is it impossible to compare the different generations due to difference in rackets, balls, courts, physical preparation, etc.? The whole GOAT debate drives me insane, to be honest, because there will never be a solid answer that everyone is going to agree on. It's all very much down to the angle that people are looking at the situation from. So, for example, at the moment, if I had to pick someone, I'd go with Roger Federer because of the way he's come back this year, the way he's done more in that head-to-head against Nadal, the way that he's got the most Grand Slam titles, the sheer way that he plays with such brilliance, and his game is so complete, and so many players struggle against him, even his closest rivals. But then obviously you have Novak Djokovic, who has had his insane periods of domination, Rafael Nadal, who has conquered clay like no player has conquered any surface. So even in the modern era, it's difficult to pick out a particular player without having to say, oh, but this player did this and that player did that, so there's a lot of close competitors. And then, obviously, as well as this modern era, you have to compare to players from other eras, and I just think that it's almost a waste of people's time. I think there should just be a group of players that we refer to as, yes, these are the greats of tennis, Andre Agassi, Jimmy Connors, Rod Laver, and then Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, these players. There are so many players who've achieved such great things in the sport. Things were so different years ago when the likes of Rod Laver were playing. It is hard to say whether if they had like the hours spent in the gym, the technology that these players have, it's really difficult to say how much better or how much worse they would have been. So I think that there are other things that we could be talking about that have more significance, and it's not a debate that people are going to stop having, and sometimes it can be an interesting debate, but to be honest, it's just not going to really go anywhere. So if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? Does John Isner's serve count? Because if it does, I'll take it. When I was younger, I wanted to fly. I really wanted to be able to fly when I was about 4. Okay, next question. What's the most exciting tennis match you've ever been to? Well, I was at the World Tour Finals recently, and all the matches that day actually were really good. I've actually lost count of the matches that I've seen, but the ATP Finals was recent, and all 4 matches I saw on that day were very entertaining, went the distance. The singles matches were Marin Cilic versus Jack Sock, and Sock won that in 3, and Roger Federer versus Alexander Zverev, which Federer won in 3. And that one especially was really interesting because obviously Federer is very much the present, Zverev is doing incredibly well at the moment, and I see him definitely winning multiple slams in future, probably getting to the top ranking. This is such a funny question. Do you wear glasses or contact lenses of any kind? For some reason your eyes look very bright and kind of tinted a little bit. I think it's probably because when I first started the channel, I was filming closer to my window. I use natural light, and when my eyes are in bright sunlight, they do kind of look more coloured, I guess, and more blue, like bright blue. But no, I don't wear contact lenses or glasses. We are running low on questions, almost there. If you could interview one pro player, who would it be and why? Over the past couple of years, I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of players that I didn't think I'd get to interview this early on, which has been really cool. At this moment in time, I would quite like to interview Serena because I would like to get her thoughts, her real thoughts on coming back to the tour, her expectations. Probably no one's really going to get that and get the true details before she actually comes back on the circuit. But it would be great to interview her now and find out where her mindset is at, where her game is at. Obviously with so many changes in her life over the past few months. What is your favourite major to cover? So I'm going to talk about this as if I'm just covering it from home and not on site. My favourite majors themselves are the Australian Open and Wimbledon. Wimbledon I've just loved for years. It's Britain's major. It's grass courts, very different to the other four, very traditional. It's the one that people think of when they think of tennis. But the Australian Open has kind of become my favourite in recent years. I like that it's at the beginning of the season. You don't have much of an idea of where players are at coming into it because it's so close to the beginning of a new year. There is a bit more of a sense of intrigue as who can go deep, not necessarily who will win, because a lot of players have managed to win multiple Australian Open titles. And in terms of covering it, the Australian Open is like 11, 12, I forget now off the top of my head, but it's about 11 or 12 hours ahead. So it's not ideal when it comes to actually watching the tennis. I spent a lot of nights on the sofa, not really sleeping that much, having to be out the next day. But it does mean that when the matches are finished, whereas over here, once matches and play are over for the day, you've got to think about content, what am I going to write, what am I going to record, how quickly am I going to have it up, whereas when tennis finishes in Australia, the day is pretty much beginning for me over here. I have more time really and less stress to work on things and to decide what I want to write about or record about and that kind of thing. So I do like covering the Australian Open. Another not really tennis related one. If you could be in any film, what would it be and why? I love Star Wars. It would be probably quite cool to be in Star Wars, but then again, I'd probably be scared of wrecking it, so... Only a couple of questions left, guys. Do you play tennis? Yes, I do. And ideally, right now I'd have some videos of me playing tennis so you can see how dreadful or average I am. I like to think I'm not too bad. I've been playing for about 4 or 5 years now, which isn't as long as I would like. For round about 6 foot, I should have a better serve. But I'm working on it. So yeah, hopefully in the future I'll get some videos for you of me playing tennis for you to assess how dreadful I really am. And final question, Tomic or Kyrgios? This is actually exactly the same question I asked to Kokonakis in June. That was quite funny. My answers are going to be less interesting, but Tomic or Kyrgios? Now, it might surprise you, but I actually like both players for different reasons. Kyrgios, I've always been a fan of Kyrgios' game. I think he's brilliant. His serve, his trick shots, his ground strokes, his performances against the top players is just brilliant, and I do hope that he can find some peace and really bring his best tennis more often and find motivation, because he would be so good for the game if he can kind of get himself in the right place. And Tomic, yes, he can be very frustrating, as we've seen this year and in previous years, but one of my memories of Tomic is always when I first saw him when he was a teenager anyway, and I remember seeing him play Djokovic at Wimbledon and completely, like, frustrating him, and he can be incredibly funny. So I'll put some links to interviews in the description, but one of those interviews is earlier this year. Tomic did a kind of tell-all interview on Australian TV, and some of the parts of that I know kind of converted some people or made them see things more differently and kind of have more sympathy for him, because he was very honest in that interview, very upfront. I think he came across really well in it. Everyone should watch that interview. I'll put the link in the description and you can check it out. But yeah, there are things I like about Tomic and Kyrgios. Okay, so that's all the questions. Thank you very much for sending them in. Leave your comments for me and let me know what you thought of my answers. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And guys, I have a question for you. Nike or Nike? Leave your answers in the comments section and we'll have a good old debate about it. Yeah, thank you for watching, and whenever the next video is, I will see you there.